The white corridors of the UES Compassion hummed with quiet activity. Dr. Ji-won Kim walked through the medical bay, checking on patients from 3 different worlds. Her steps were soft on the polished floor as she moved between beds holding injured miners, sick children, and wounded soldiers who had come seeking help. The hospital ship was massive, bigger than most cities. It had been flying through space for 2 years now, going wherever people needed medical help. The ship followed all the galactic treaties. Everyone knew that hospital ships were safe. They never carried weapons. They never took sides in wars. They just helped anyone who was hurt. Ji-won stopped beside a bed where a young alien child was sleeping. The child had green skin and 4 arms, but the injuries were the same as any human child might have. Burns from an explosion at a mining station. Ji-won checked the healing progress and smiled. The child would be fine in a few days. Dr. Kim? A voice called from behind her. She turned to see Minho Park, one of her best nurses. His face looked worried. "What is it, Minho?" Ji-won asked. "Captain Choi wants to see you on the bridge. He says it's urgent." Ji-won nodded and followed Minho through the long hallways. The ship was so big that it took them 10 minutes to reach the bridge. Along the way, they passed hundreds of rooms filled with medical equipment, patient rooms, and laboratories. The Compassion was like a floating city dedicated to healing. The bridge was at the front of the ship. Large windows showed the stars outside, and computer screens displayed information about their location and the ship's systems. Captain Dong-Yun Choi stood in the center, looking at a large display screen. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his face showed concern. "Dr. Kim," he said when he saw her. "We just received a distress call from the Kepler mining colony. They're under attack." Ji-won moved closer to look at the screen. It showed a star system with several planets. One planet was highlighted in red. "How many people?" she asked. "About 50,000. Captain Choi replied. "Mostly human families and some alien workers. The attack started 6 hours ago. They're asking for immediate medical assistance." "Who's attacking them?" Minho asked. Captain Choi's face grew darker. "The Vextai Empire." Ji-won felt her stomach drop. The Vextai were known throughout the galaxy as brutal warriors. They conquered planets and enslaved the people who lived there. They showed no mercy to anyone, not even children. "How long to get there?" Ji-won asked. 18 hours at maximum speed," Captain Choi answered. "I've already given the order to change course." Ji-won nodded. "I'll prepare the medical teams. How many wounded should we expect?" "Unknown, but probably thousands." As Ji-won left the bridge, she felt the ship's engines change their sound. The Compassion was now racing through space toward the attacked colony. She walked quickly back to the medical section and called for an emergency meeting. Within an hour, all the department heads were gathered in the main meeting room. Besides Ji-won and Minho, there was Nari Lee, the chief engineer, and several other doctors and nurses from different sections of the ship. "We're heading to Kepler Colony," Ji-won explained. "The Vextai Empire is attacking. We need to be ready for massive casualties." Nari spoke up. "Doctor, are we sure this is safe? The Vextai don't usually respect medical neutrality. We're protected by galactic law," Ji-won replied. "Hospital ships cannot be attacked. It's been that way for over 100 years. "But what if they don't care about the law?" Minho asked quietly. Ji-won looked around the room at the worried faces. "Then we do our job anyway. These are innocent people who need our help." The next 18 hours passed quickly. The medical teams prepared thousands of beds, organized medical supplies, and set up emergency surgery rooms. The ship's AI, which the crew called Bomi, helped coordinate everything. Bomi's voice was calm and helpful as she managed supply lists and patient assignments. During the journey, Ji-won couldn't sleep. She walked through the ship, checking preparations and thinking about what they might find. The Compassion carried over 3,000 medical staff from dozens of different worlds. They were all here because they wanted to help people, regardless of what species they were or what planet they came from. In the lower levels of the ship, she passed some areas she rarely visited. The Compassion was so large that there were entire sections dedicated to research and storage. Some areas were restricted, but Ji-won had clearance to go almost anywhere as the chief medical officer. As she walked through one of the research sections, she noticed something strange. There were lights on in a laboratory that was supposed to be empty. The door was marked with warnings about dangerous experiments, but she was sure no one was assigned to work there. She tried the door, but it was locked with a security system she didn't recognize. That was odd. All the ship's security systems should have been familiar to her. "Bomi," she said aloud, "who has access to Research Lab 7? There was a pause before Bomi answered. "I'm sorry, Dr. Kim. That information is classified above your clearance level." Ji-won frowned. She had one of the highest clearance levels on the ship. What could be in that lab that she wasn't allowed to know about before she could investigate? Further, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Bomi's voice echoed through the corridors. "All personnel to emergency stations. We are approaching the Kepler system." Ji-won hurried back to the medical bay. Through the windows, she could see the planet ahead. Even from space, she could see fires burning on the surface. Explosions flashed like tiny stars as the attack continued. "My God," Minho whispered beside her. "Look at the orbital stations." Ji-won looked up and saw the worst sight of her medical career. 3 space stations that orbited the planet were broken and burning. Pieces of metal and debris floated in space. Escape pods drifted helplessly, carrying survivors who might already be dead from the cold of space. "Captain Choi to all departments," came the announcement. "We're beginning rescue operations immediately. Medical teams prepare for incoming wounded." But as they got closer to the planet, Ji-won saw something that made her blood run cold. Vextai warships were still in orbit around the planet. 6 massive battlecruisers surrounded by smaller fighter ships. They were still attacking the surface. "Bomi," Ji-won called out. "Are we broadcasting our medical identification?" "Yes, Doctor. Kim. All proper medical neutrality signals are being transmitted. Our hospital ship markings are clearly visible." Ji-won felt a little relief. The Vextai would see that they were a hospital ship. They would let them pass to help the wounded. It was galactic law. But as the Compassion moved closer to the planet, something felt wrong. The Vextai ships were turning toward them. Their weapons were powering up. "This can't be happening," Minho said, staring at the tactical display. "On the bridge." Captain Choi's voice came over the ship's communication system. His voice was calm, but Ji-won could hear the worry underneath. "Attention Vextai vessels. This is the UES Compassion, a hospital ship operating under galactic medical treaties. We are here to provide humanitarian aid to wounded civilians. Please acknowledge." The response came quickly, in the harsh voice of a Vextai commander. "Hospital, Ship Compassion, you will leave this system immediately or be destroyed." Ji-won felt the world spinning around her. This couldn't be real. No one attacked hospital ships. It was unthinkable. Captain Choi's voice came again. Vextai Command. We are a neutral medical vessel. We do not participate in combat operations. We only seek to help wounded civilians. The Vextai response was simple and terrifying. You have 30 seconds to begin retreat, or we will fire. In the medical bay, hundreds of staff members stood, frozen, staring at the communication speakers. Everyone knew what this meant. If the Vextai attacked them, thousands of medical personnel would die. Worse, all the patients currently on the ship would die, too. Captain Choi made the only choice he could. All hands, prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. But as the Compassion began to turn away from the planet, Ji-Won looked at the tactical. Display one more time. Those escape pods were still floating in space. People were dying down on the planet's surface. If they left now, thousands of innocent people would die without any medical help. The choice between saving themselves and saving others was about to be made for them. Because as Ji-Won watched in horror, the Vextai ships opened fire. The galaxy was about to learn that some mistakes can never be undone. The first explosion rocked the Compassion like a giant hand shaking a toy. Ji-Won grabbed onto a medical bed as the lights flickered and emergency alarms screamed throughout the ship. The peaceful white corridor suddenly filled with the red glow of warning lights. Direct hit to the shield generators, came Bomi's calm voice, though even the AI sounded strained. Shield strength down to 60%. Ji-Won couldn't believe what was happening. The Vextai were actually firing on a hospital ship. In over 100 years of galactic civilization, this had never happened before. Medical ships were sacred. They were supposed to be protected by every law and treaty in known space. Another blast hit the ship, stronger this time. The floor tilted, and several patients fell from their beds. Nurses and doctors rushed to help them while trying to keep their own balance. All medical staff to secure positions, Captain Choi announced over the ship's speakers. We are under attack. This is not a drill. Minho appeared beside Ji-Won, his face pale but determined. Doctor, what are your orders? Ji-Won looked around the medical bay. There were over 200 patients in this section alone. Many were children. Some were so sick they couldn't be moved. If the ship was destroyed, they would all die. We protect the patients, she said firmly. Get everyone away from the outer walls and into the inner compartments. Move the critical patients first. As the medical staff began moving patients, Ji-Won ran toward the bridge. The corridors were filled with people rushing in different directions. Some were medical personnel securing their areas. Others were engineers trying to fix damage from the attacks. The ship shook again, and Ji-Won heard the horrible sound of metal tearing. Emergency doors slammed shut automatically, sealing off damaged sections. The Compassion was built to survive damage, but it was never meant to fight in space battles. When Ji-Won reached the bridge, she found Captain Choi shouting orders to his crew. The main display screen showed the 6 Vextai warships surrounding them. Red energy beams lanced out from the alien ships, striking the Compassion again and again. Shields down to 20%, reported the tactical officer. We can't take much more of this. Return fire, Captain Choi ordered. Sir, we have no weapons, the officer replied. We're a hospital ship. Ji-Won felt sick. They were completely helpless. The Compassion was huge and well built, but it was designed to save lives, not to fight wars. Send another message to the Vextai, Captain Choi said. Remind them of galactic law. The communications officer tried again. Vextai fleet, you are firing on a protected medical vessel. This violates every treaty in the galaxy. Please cease fire immediately. The response came from the Vextai Admiral. "We recognize no treaties with humans. Your species spreads like a disease across our galaxy. Today, we begin cutting out that disease." Jiwan realized with horror that this wasn't a mistake. The Vextai weren't confused about who they were attacking. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were deliberately destroying a hospital ship to send a message to all humans. "Captain," called the sensor officer. "They're launching boarding pods." On the screen, Jiwan could see small attack ships separating from the Vextai cruisers. They were heading straight for the Compassion. The Vextai weren't just going to destroy the ship from outside. They were going to board it and kill everyone inside personally. "All security teams to repel boarders," Captain Choi announced. "All medical personnel to emergency lockdown positions." Jiwan ran back toward the medical sections. The ship's security force was small, only about 50 people. They were trained to handle emergencies and keep order, but they weren't soldiers. They had basic weapons and armor, but nothing that could stop a full Vextai assault. When she reached the medical bay, she found chaos. Nurses were trying to move patients to safer areas while the ship continued to shake from weapons fire. Some of the alien patients were panicking, not understanding what was happening. "Minho," Jiwan called out, "help me get the children to the emergency shelter." They began moving the youngest patients to a reinforced area deep inside the ship. The children were scared and crying, but the medical staff tried to keep them calm. Jiwan carried a small human girl who had been injured in a transport accident. The girl looked up at her with wide, frightened eyes. "Are the bad people going to hurt us?" the girl asked. "We won't let them," Jiwan promised, though she wasn't sure how they could keep that promise. The sound of weapons fire was getting closer. The Vextai boarding parties had broken through the ship's outer hull and were fighting their way inside. Jiwan could hear the distinctive sound of Vextai energy rifles echoing through the corridors. Nari Lee appeared in the medical bay, her engineer's uniform torn and dirty. "Dr. Kim, they've taken the entire forward section. Security is falling back to the main corridor." "How many of them?" Jiwan asked. "At least 100 Vextai soldiers, maybe more. They're killing everyone they find." Jiwan felt her hands shake as she held the injured child. The Vextai were known for their brutality, but attacking a hospital ship was beyond anything they had done before. This was pure evil. "We need to evacuate as many patients as possible to the escape pods," Jiwan said. "The escape pods in the forward section are gone," Nari replied. "The Vextai destroyed them when they boarded." The ship's communication system crackled, and a harsh Vextai voice spoke in broken human language. "Human medical staff, you will surrender now. Resistance will result in immediate death for all patients." Jiwan looked around the medical bay. There were still over 100 patients who couldn't be moved. Many were unconscious or too injured to survive being carried to safety. If they surrendered, the Vextai might spare the patients. But she had heard stories about Vextai prisoners. They didn't believe in mercy. "Doctor," Minho said quietly, "what do we do?" Before Jiwan could answer, the lights in the medical bay suddenly changed. Instead of the normal white lighting, everything turned blue. The ship's computers made sounds she had never heard before. "Attention all personnel," came Bomi's voice, but it sounded different somehow. "Please remain calm. Emergency protocols are now in effect." "What emergency protocols?" Jiwan asked aloud. "Classification level 7, Bomi replied. "Automatic activation triggered by attack on medical neutrality." Jiwan had never heard of classification level 7. She thought she knew all the ship's emergency procedures. On the displays around the medical bay, new information began appearing. Weapon locations throughout the ship lit up on tactical maps. Hidden compartments opened in the walls, revealing equipment that definitely didn't belong on a hospital ship. "What is all this?" Nari asked, staring at the displays. Before anyone could answer, a new voice came over the ship's communications system. It was human, but not one that Ji-won recognized. The voice was calm, intelligent, and somehow very dangerous. "This is Dr. Hyunwoo. Nam speaking to all Vextai forces currently aboard this vessel. You have 60 seconds to return to your ships and leave this system. If you do not comply, you will experience consequences beyond your ability to imagine." Ji-won looked at Minho and Nari with confusion. "Who is Dr. Nam?" she asked. "I've never heard that name," Minho replied. The Vextai Admiral's voice came back over the communication system, filled with laughter. "Unknown human, you are about to die. Your ship is defenseless and your people are weak." 50 seconds, the calm voice of Dr. Nam replied. Suddenly, the sounds of fighting in the corridors changed. Instead of Vextai weapons firing, there were new sounds. Energy weapons that hummed with a frequency Ji-won had never heard before. The sound of metal bending and tearing. And most disturbing of all, the sound of Vextai soldiers screaming. 40 seconds, Dr. Nam announced. The ship's sensors showed something impossible. The Vextai boarding parties were being pushed back, but the ship's security forces were still in the same positions. Something else was fighting the invaders. 30 seconds. Now even the Vextai ships outside were acting strangely. Their weapons had stopped firing on the Compassion. On the tactical display, Ji-won could see the alien vessels moving into defensive positions as if they were suddenly afraid of something. 20 seconds. The medical bay's doors opened and someone walked in. He was a human man, about 40 years old, wearing a simple white lab coat. His hair was neat, his face was calm, and his eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost inhuman. 10 seconds, he said, looking directly at the main communication screen. "Dr. Nam?" Ji-won asked. He nodded to her politely. "Good evening, Dr. Kim. I apologize for the dramatic introduction, but circumstances required immediate action." The Vextai Admiral's voice came one last time. "Human, you will regret threatening us." Dr. Nam smiled, and something about that smile made Ji-won feel cold. "Time's up," he said simply. Outside the ship, one of the massive Vextai cruisers simply vanished. Not destroyed by explosions or weapons fire. It just disappeared as if it had never existed. The remaining 5 ships immediately began retreating. At maximum speed, Dr. Nam turned to address the frightened medical staff in the bay. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said in his calm voice, "I believe we need to have a conversation." The medical bay fell completely silent except for the quiet beeping of patient monitors. Everyone stared at Dr. Hyunwoo Nam as he stood calmly in the doorway. Outside, where minutes ago there had been 6 massive Vextai warships, now only 5 remained. The 6th had simply ceased to exist. "How?" Ji-won whispered, her voice barely audible. Dr. Nam walked slowly into the medical bay, his hands clasped behind his back like a professor giving a lecture. "That's a very good question, Dr. Kim. The answer is quite complex, but I'll try to explain it in simple terms." Captain Choi's voice crackled over the communication system. "Dr. Nam, this is Captain Choi. Please report to the bridge immediately." "In a moment, Captain," Dr. Nam replied calmly. "I'm currently addressing some very understandable concerns from our medical staff." Minho stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "Sir, with respect, what just happened? That ship just disappeared." Quantum dissolution, Dr. Nam explained as if he were discussing the weather. I disrupted the quantum bonds holding the ship's matter together. The atoms that made up that vessel are now scattered across approximately 17 different dimensional phases. The words didn't make sense to Ji-won. She was a doctor, not a physicist. You're saying you destroyed an entire warship with some kind of weapon? Destroyed implies violence, Dr. Kim. I prefer to think of it as relocating their atomic structure to places where it can't harm innocent people. Dr. Nam moved to one of the patient beds and checked the readings on a small alien child's monitor. Much like how we relocate diseased tissue to save a patient's life. Nari, who understood technology better than the others, spoke up with a shaking voice. The energy requirements for something like that would be impossible. You'd need the power output of an entire star. Dr. Nam smiled at her. Very good, Ms. Lee. You're quite right about the energy requirements using conventional technology. He gestured toward the walls around them. However, this ship has not been conventional for quite some time. As if responding to his words, the walls of the medical bay began to change. Panels slid aside to reveal equipment that clearly didn't belong on a hospital ship. Complex devices with displays showing mathematical formulas that hurt to look at. Cables carrying energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. You see, Dr. Nam continued, the UES Compassion has been my mobile laboratory for the past 5 years. While all of you have been doing excellent work saving lives on the upper levels, I've been conducting research in the lower sections. What kind of research? Ji-won demanded. She was starting to feel angry. This man had been hiding on her ship, conducting secret experiments while she thought they were running a simple medical mission. The kind that will ensure no hospital ship is ever attacked again, Dr. Nam replied. The kind that will make sure the Vextai Empire never commits another atrocity against innocent people. Captain Choi appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 security officers. His uniform was damaged from the battle, and his face showed a mixture of confusion and anger. Dr. Nam, I need an explanation. Now. Of course, Captain. Dr. Nam gestured toward the hidden equipment around them. 5 years ago, I was presumed dead during a research accident. In reality, I was recruited by a classified human government project called Ghost Protocol. I've never heard of any ghost. Protocol, Captain Choi said suspiciously. That was rather the point, Dr. Nam replied. The project was designed to prepare humanity for the possibility that our peaceful expansion into the galaxy might not always be met with peaceful responses. Ji-won felt sick. You're saying this was planned? You knew the Vextai would attack. Us? Not specifically the Vextai, and not specifically this ship, Dr. Nam said. But we calculated that eventually someone would test the boundaries of galactic law. Someone would attack a human medical facility or civilian target to see how we would respond. Minho looked around at the patients in the medical bay. So you used us as bait? For the first time, Dr. Nam's calm expression showed a hint of something else. Pain, perhaps, or regret. No, Mr. Park. You were never bait. This ship's medical mission is completely real and vitally important. But when I saw the opportunity to conduct my research while also saving lives, it seemed like the perfect cover. Cover for what? Captain Choi demanded. Dr. Nam walked to one of the hidden control panels and placed his hand on it. Immediately, the entire ship seemed to come alive with new energy. Lights that had been damaged during the attack suddenly worked. Perfectly. Systems that had been destroyed began functioning again. Cover for the development of technologies that will change the balance of power in this galaxy forever, he said simply. The ship's main display screens activated, showing views of space around them. But something was wrong with the picture. The 5 remaining Vextai ships were still visible, but they seemed to be searching for something. Their sensors were scanning empty space as if they had lost track of their target. "Bomi," Dr. Nam said aloud, "please activate full stealth protocol." "Stealth protocol activated, Dr. Nam," Bomi's voice replied. But now the AI sounded different, more sophisticated, more intelligent than before. On the display screens, the compassion seemed to fade away like a ghost. The ship was still there, but it was becoming invisible to every kind of sensor that Jiwan knew about. "Quantum cloaking," Dr. Nam explained. "We're not just hiding from their sensors. We're shifting partially out of phase with normal space-time. To the Vextai, we no longer exist in their reality." Nari stared at the displays in amazement. How is this possible? The power requirements alone should have torn the ship apart. "Ah, but that's where my research comes in," Dr. Nam said with genuine enthusiasm. "I've learned how to tap into what I call quantum vacuum energy. Essentially, I'm borrowing power from the empty space between atoms. The universe has infinite energy if you know how to ask for it politely." Captain Choi was looking more confused and angry by the minute. "Dr. Nam, I need to know exactly what you've done to my ship." "Your ship, Captain, is now the most advanced vessel in the galaxy," Dr. Nam replied. "The medical facilities remain exactly as they were. Every life-saving system you depend on is still there and working better than ever. But now the Compassion also carries enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. That goes against everything a hospital ship stands for," Jiwan protested. Dr. Nam nodded seriously. "You're absolutely right, Dr. Kim. And under normal circumstances, these weapons would never be used. But what we just experienced were not normal circumstances." He gestured toward the display showing the searching Vextai ships. "Those vessels committed a war crime. They attacked a hospital ship in direct violation of every treaty and law in galactic civilization. They were willing to murder thousands of medical personnel and patients to make a political point." "So you destroyed one of their ships," Captain Choi said. "I removed it from the equation, yes," Dr. Nam agreed. "But more importantly, I sent a message. The Vextai will report what happened here to their superiors. Word will spread throughout their empire and beyond." Minho looked worried. "What kind of message?" Dr. Nam's expression became very serious. "That humanity is not as helpless as we appear. That we have capabilities we haven't shown before. That attacking our medical personnel and civilians comes with consequences they cannot imagine. The communication system activated with incoming messages from the Vextai ships." Their voices sounded panicked and confused as they tried to figure out what had happened to their companion vessel and where the hospital ship had gone. "They're scanning for wreckage," Nari observed, watching the sensor readings. "They won't find any," Dr. Nam said, "because there isn't any. That ship's atoms are currently distributed across several dimensions where they can't hurt anyone." Jiwan looked around at her medical staff. They all looked scared and confused. This wasn't what they had signed up for when they joined a hospital ship. They wanted to save lives, not get involved in secret military projects. "Dr. Nam," she said carefully, "what happens now?" "Now, Dr. Kim, we continue our medical mission. We help the wounded on that planet below. We treat anyone who needs our care, regardless of what species they are." He paused and looked directly at her. "But we do it with the knowledge that no one will ever attack us again." Captain Choi stepped forward. And if I order you to remove all this equipment from my ship? Dr. Nam considered the question seriously. Then I would respectfully point out that the equipment is built into the ship's basic structure. Removing it would require dismantling the compassion completely. Also, I would remind you that we are currently surrounded by hostile alien warships who would very much like to finish what they started. As if summoned by his words, the Vextai Admiral's voice came over the communication system. Unknown vessel, we know you are still in this system. Surrender immediately, or we will begin executing the human prisoners we captured from the planet's surface. The medical bay fell silent again. Everyone looked at Dr. Nam, waiting to see what this mysterious man would do next. Dr. Nam walked calmly to the communication panel and pressed a button. "Admiral," he said in his polite, calm voice, "you have 10 minutes to release all prisoners and leave this system. If you do not comply, I will demonstrate why attacking human medical personnel was the worst mistake your empire has ever made." Then he turned to the frightened medic. Dr. Hyun-Woo Nam led the group through corridors that Ji-won had never seen before. They passed through hidden doorways and down elevators that descended far deeper into the ship than she had known was possible. The compassion was enormous, but this was like discovering an entirely different vessel hidden inside the one she thought she knew. "How long have you been building all this?" Captain Choi asked as they walked through a corridor lined with equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. 5 years, Dr. Nam replied. "I began the moment I came aboard. The beauty of a hospital ship is that no one questions additional research laboratories or power requirements. Medical equipment needs a lot of energy after all." They stopped in front of a massive door marked with warning signs in several languages. Dr. Nam placed his hand on a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal something that took Ji-won's breath away. The room was huge, larger than the main medical bay. But instead of patient beds and medical equipment, it was filled with computers and display screens that covered every wall from floor to ceiling. Mathematical equations scrolled across the displays faster than human eyes could follow. In the center of the room was a chair, surrounded by a sphere of glowing energy. "Welcome to the heart of the Ghost Protocol," Dr. Nam said as they entered. Nari stared at the walls of computers in amazement. "This is impossible! The processing power here is beyond anything that exists." "You're quite right, Ms. Lee. This isn't conventional computer technology." Dr. Nam walked to the central chair and gestured to the energy sphere around it. "This is a quantum consciousness interface. It allows my mind to directly connect with probability calculations across multiple dimensional frameworks." "What does that mean in plain language?" Minho asked. Dr. Nam sat down in the chair, and immediately the sphere around him began to glow brighter. Information flowed across the screens at incredible speed. "It means I can calculate the outcome of any conflict before it begins. I can predict enemy movements, anticipate their strategies, and determine the exact actions needed to achieve victory with minimal casualties." As he spoke, the displays around the room changed to show tactical information about the Vextai ships outside. But this wasn't just basic sensor data. The screens showed detailed information about the ship's crews, their psychological profiles, their military training, even their personal fears and motivations. "How do you know all this?" Captain Choi asked, staring at a display that showed the complete military record of the Vextai Admiral. "Every time the Compassion docked at a station or visited a planet, I gathered information," Dr. Nam explained. "Medical records, personnel files, communication intercepts, even casual conversations overheard in bars. I built a database containing detailed information about every major military leader in the galaxy. Ji-won felt sick. You've been spying on people while we were trying to help them? Dr. Kim, I've been preparing to protect them, Dr. Nam corrected. The information I gathered isn't used to harm innocent people. It's used to stop the people who would harm innocent people. The displays showed new information as Dr. Nam's mind interfaced with the quantum computers. Battle predictions, casualty estimates, and strategic options scrolled past in endless streams of data. The Vextai Admiral is named Zekthar, Dr. Nam said, his eyes closed as information flowed through his consciousness. He has commanded 17 campaigns of conquest. He has personally ordered the deaths of over 2 million civilians. He considers mercy to be a weakness and negotiation to be surrender. Can we reason with him? Captain Choi asked. No, Dr. Nam replied immediately. His psychological profile indicates a 0.03% probability of peaceful resolution. He will continue, attacking until he is stopped by force. Minho looked at the screen showing the Vextai ships. How do we stop 5 warships with 1 hospital ship? Dr. Nam opened his eyes and smiled. The expression was calm and confident, but there was something terrifying about it. We don't stop them with 1 hospital ship, Mr. Park. We stop them with mathematics. The displays around the room changed to show star charts of the entire galaxy. Thousands of points of light indicated human colonies, alien civilizations, and military installations. But some of the points were blinking in a pattern that seemed almost like a code. For the past 5 years, every human who has received medical treatment aboard this ship has been implanted with microscopic quantum communicators, Dr. Nam explained. They're completely harmless and undetectable. The patients never knew they were there. Ji-won's face went white. You've been experimenting on our patients without their consent? I've been preparing them to survive, Dr. Nam corrected. Those communicators connect them to a network that spans the entire galaxy. When activated, they provide real-time intelligence about every major civilization and military force in known space. Captain Choi stepped closer to the displays. How many people are in this network? Approximately 4 million humans and 2 million aliens who received treatment aboard the Compassion, Dr. Nam replied. They're located in every major city, on every important world, in every significant organization. They're doctors, engineers, teachers, merchants, and yes, some are in positions of military and political importance. Nari understood first. You've created a galaxy-wide spy network using medical patients. I've created a galaxy-wide peace network, Dr. Nam corrected. These people aren't spies. They're just living their normal lives. But when necessary, the quantum communicators allow me to see through their eyes, hear through their ears, and know what they know. The implications hit Ji-won like a physical blow. Every patient we've helped, every person we've saved, they're all connected to this system. Only those who pose no security risk, Dr. Nam assured her. The quantum communicators are only activated in times of crisis. Most of the people carrying them will never even know they exist. The displays showed the Vextai ships moving into attack formation around the planet below. But now the screens also showed detailed information about every ship, every crew member, every weapon system, and every tactical decision they were making. Admiral Zekthar is preparing to demonstrate his resolve by executing human prisoners, Dr. Nam announced, reading the data flowing through his consciousness. He believes this will force us to surrender. We have to stop him, Ji-won said. We will, Dr. Nam replied. He began entering commands into the quantum interface. But not in the way you might expect. New displays activated, showing locations throughout Vextai space. Space stations, military bases, government buildings, and command centers appeared on the screens. Each location was marked with detailed information about its defenses, personnel, and strategic importance. The Vextai Empire controls 47 star systems, Dr. Nam explained as he worked. Their military consists of approximately 2,000 warships, 50 million soldiers, and operates from 137 major installations. Captain Choi stared at the displays. How do you know all this? Because humans have been treated for injuries and illnesses on Vextai worlds for decades, Dr. Nam replied. Merchant crews, diplomatic staff, prisoners of war who were later released, even Vextai citizens who sought human medical care, all of them received treatment that included my quantum communicators. The true scope of what Dr. Nam had created was becoming clear. It wasn't just a spy network. It was a complete intelligence system that gave him detailed real-time information about every major civilization in the galaxy. The Vextai Empire has 3 critical weaknesses, Dr. Nam continued. Their primary fleet command is located on a space station with minimal defenses. Their emperor rules through fear, and his authority depends on the belief that the Vextai military is invincible, and their entire economy depends on slave labor from conquered worlds. Minho was beginning to understand. You're going to attack all 3 at once. I'm going to solve all 3 simultaneously, Dr. Nam corrected. The quantum weapons I've developed can strike across any distance instantaneously. While Admiral Zekthar is threatening prisoners here, I can eliminate the command structure that gives him his orders. Jiwon felt like she was in a nightmare. You're talking about starting a war. Dr. Nam turned to look at her directly. Dr. Kim, the Vextai started this war the moment they fired on a hospital ship. I'm simply going to finish it. The displays showed detailed battle plans that took into account thousands of variables. Casualty predictions, economic impacts, political consequences, and long-term stability calculations scrolled past in endless streams. The total campaign will take approximately 6 hours and 14 minutes, Dr. Nam announced. Estimated Vextai military casualties, 800,000. Estimated civilian casualties, 0. Estimated probability of complete Vextai surrender, 99.97%. Captain Choi looked overwhelmed. You're talking about destroying an entire empire. I'm talking about removing their ability to harm innocent people, Dr. Nam replied. The Vextai civilians will be unharmed. Their economy will actually improve once it's no longer based on slave labor. Their government will be restructured to be more democratic and peaceful. The quantum interface beeped, indicating an incoming message from the Vextai ships. Admiral Zekthar's harsh voice filled the room. Human vessel, our patience is at an end. We will begin executing prisoners in 30 minutes. Dr. Nam's fingers moved across the quantum interface with incredible speed. The energy sphere around him pulsed brighter as his mind connected to systems throughout the galaxy. On the displays around the room, thousands of points of light began to activate as the network came online. Quantum communicator network activation in progress, Bomi announced. Current active nodes, 6,047,191 and increasing. Jaiwan watched in fascination and horror as the galaxy map came alive. Each blinking light represented a person who had been treated aboard the Compassion over the past 5 years. They were scattered across hundreds of worlds, living normal lives, completely unaware that they were about to become part of something extraordinary. The network isn't just for gathering information, Dr. Nam explained as he worked. Each quantum communicator can also transmit instructions directly to the host's nervous system. Nothing harmful, just basic information and simple commands. You can control people? Minho asked, his voice filled with disgust. I can communicate with them, Dr. Nam corrected. Think of it as a very advanced form of telepathy. The quantum communicators can bypass language barriers and transmit pure concepts directly to their minds. Captain Choi watched the tactical US displays showing the Vextai ships. What are you going to do with this network? Something that has never been attempted in galactic history, Dr. Nam replied. I'm going to coordinate a simultaneous response across multiple star systems. The Vextai Empire is about to discover that they are not just fighting one hospital ship. They are fighting every human in the galaxy and quite a few aliens who consider us friends. The displays showed new information as the network expanded. On a Vextai military base, a human engineer who had been treated for radiation poisoning 2 years ago suddenly stopped working and walked to a computer terminal. His movements were smooth and purposeful, as if he knew exactly what to do. Network node 2047,332, accessing Vextai military database, Bomi reported. Downloading fleet deployment schedules. On another world, a human merchant who had received treatment for a broken leg began transmitting detailed information about Vextai shipping routes and supply schedules. She worked calmly and efficiently, her actions coordinated perfectly with thousands of other people across the galaxy. This is incredible, Nari whispered, watching the data flow across the screens. You have real-time intelligence on everything the Vextai Empire is doing. More than that, Dr. Nam said with satisfaction. I have the ability to disrupt everything they're doing. The first demonstration came from a Vextai supply depot in the Outer Territories. A human maintenance worker, following instructions transmitted through his quantum communicator, made a small adjustment to the depot's power system. The change looked innocent, but within minutes the entire facility's defense grid shut down. Network node 5891,067 has disabled primary weapons at Supply Depot Gamma 7, Bomi announced. Similar reports began coming in from across Vextai space. Communication relays developed mysterious malfunctions. Transport ships found their navigation, systems giving incorrect readings. Military bases discovered that their security systems had been subtly reprogrammed. Admiral Zekthar's voice came over the communication system, sounding angry and confused. What is happening to our systems? Report! Dr. Nam smiled and activated the ship's main communication array. When he spoke, his voice was broadcast not just to the Vextai ships, but to every major government and military force in the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, in his calm, measured tone. My name is Dr. Hyunwoo Nam. 67 minutes ago, the Vextai Empire committed an unprecedented war crime by attacking a clearly marked hospital ship engaged in humanitarian operations. On the displays, Ji-won could see that thousands of worlds were receiving the transmission. News networks were picking up the signal. Government leaders were gathering to hear what this unknown human had to say. For too long, the galaxy has accepted that some civilizations will choose violence over peace, Dr. Nam continued. We have allowed aggressive empires to expand through conquest and terror because we believe that stopping them would require becoming like them. The quantum interface pulsed with energy as Dr. Nam's mind worked at impossible speeds. Across the galaxy, the network of humans and aliens began coordinating their actions with perfect precision. Today, that changes, Dr. Nam announced. Today, we demonstrate that advanced technology combined with coordination and intelligence can defeat brute force without becoming brutal ourselves. On the tactical displays, the effects of the network were becoming clear. Vextai military installations throughout their empire were experiencing simultaneous system failures. Nothing violent or destructive, just critical malfunctions that left their forces confused and unable to coordinate. "Network status report," Dr. Nam called out. 2 million active nodes and growing, Bomi replied. "Current success rate of coordinated operations, 99.8%. Estimated time to complete primary objectives, 4 hours, 12 minutes. Ji-Wan watched a display showing a Vextai command center. The alien officers were running frantically between stations, trying to understand why their computer systems were providing conflicting information, and their communication networks were routing messages to the wrong destinations. "You're paralyzing their entire military," Captain Choi observed. "I'm demonstrating the power of coordination over chaos," Dr. Nam corrected. "Every action taken by the network is designed to minimize casualties while maximizing strategic impact." A new display activated, showing Admiral Zekthar's flagship. The Vextai commander was shouting orders at his crew, but his ship's weapons systems were failing to respond properly. His communication with other ships was being interrupted by strange interference patterns. "Admiral Zekthar," Dr. Nam said, addressing the Vextai commander directly. "Your empire is built on the belief that superior firepower makes you invincible. Allow me to introduce you to the concept of superior information." The displays around the room showed detailed schematics of every Vextai ship in the fleet. Not just their general designs, but specific information about each vessel's individual weaknesses, maintenance records, and crew capabilities. "Your flagship has a microfracture in the primary power coupling on Deck 7, Dr. Nam announced. "Your second ship has faulty targeting computers that overcompensate by 0.3 degrees when firing at targets beyond medium range. Your third ship's captain has a psychological condition that makes him panic when faced with unexpected tactical situations." As he spoke, the network began exploiting each weakness with surgical precision. The flagship's power fluctuated as the microfracture was remotely triggered to expand. The second ship's targeting systems were further confused by false signals. The third ship's captain received carefully crafted communications designed to increase his stress levels. "How do you know all this?" Admiral Zekthar demanded over the communication channel. "Because knowledge is more powerful than weapons," Dr. Nam replied. "And I have been gathering knowledge about your empire for 5 years. Minho was staring at the displays in amazement. "This is like watching a master chess player compete against children." "An apt comparison," Dr. Nam agreed. "The Vextai Empire relies on brute force tactics that worked well against primitive civilizations. But they have never faced an opponent who could predict their every move and counter their strategies before they were even implemented." The network's actions were accelerating. Across Vextai space, supply lines were being disrupted, communication, networks were failing, and military installations were experiencing cascading system failures. But there was no violence, no explosions, no deaths. The Empire was simply being gradually paralyzed. "Network Phase 2 activation," Dr. Nam announced. "Begin liberation protocols." Ji-Wan watched new displays activate, showing Vextai worlds where slave populations were being held. But something was changing on those worlds. The quantum communicators weren't just in humans who had been treated aboard the Compassion. Some were in aliens who had received care, including former slaves who had been freed and relocated. "The slaves are receiving instructions," Nari realized, watching the displays. "They're receiving hope," Dr. Nam corrected. For the first time, in generations, the enslaved populations of the Vextai Empire are learning that they are not alone. They are discovering that someone with the power to help them is finally taking action. On world after world, slave revolts began simultaneously, but these weren't chaotic uprisings. They were coordinated, precise operations guided by perfect intelligence about guard routines, security systems, and escape routes. Estimated liberation of Vextai slave populations. 73% complete, Bomi reported. Estimated time to full liberation, 2 hours, 18 minutes. Admiral Zekthar's voice came over the communication system, now sounding desperate. "What do you want? What are your demands?" Dr. Nam's response was calm and simple. "Immediate release of all prisoners, complete withdrawal from this system, and a formal declaration that the Vextai Empire will never again attack medical or civilian targets. And if we refuse?" Dr. Nam smiled, and Jiwan realized that the question was irrelevant. The Vextai Empire was no longer capable of refusing. Their military was paralyzed, their slave labor force was in revolt, and their government was losing control of their own territory. "Admiral," Dr. Nam said politely. The quantum interface hummed with increasing power as Dr. Nam prepared to demonstrate the true extent of his capabilities. The energy sphere around him had grown so bright that looking directly at it hurt. Mathematical equations flowed across. The displays faster than light, showing calculations that seemed to bend reality itself. "Dr. Nam," the president said, "the entire galaxy is demanding explanations. What do I tell them?" Dr. Nam looked directly at the screen with his calm, confident expression. "Tell them that humanity has always preferred peace, Madam President. But tell them also that we are prepared to enforce that peace when necessary." The president nodded slowly. "And the other empires? They're all requesting immediate meetings." "Schedule them," Dr. Nam replied. "But make it clear that any future attacks on medical personnel or civilian targets will result in the same response they just witnessed." As the communication ended, Jiwan realized that everything had changed. The galaxy would never again see humanity as weak or helpless. The age of empires expanding through conquest and terror was ending, replaced by something new. "Dr. Nam," she said quietly, "was this always your plan?" He turned to her with a slight smile. "Dr. Kim, my plan was always to make sure that people like you could do your work without fear. Everything else was just mathematics." The quantum interface continued to hum with power, monitoring the network that now spanned the galaxy. The age of unchecked aggression was over. The age of enforced peace had begun, and it all started because someone made the mistake of attacking a hospital ship, Jiwan said urgently. "The prisoners on the planet's surface. Admiral Zekthar still has them." "Not for much longer," Dr. Nam replied without opening his eyes. His consciousness was fully merged with the quantum computers now, processing information from millions of sources across the galaxy. "The Admiral is about to learn that some decisions cannot be undone." The main display showed Admiral Zekthar's flagship, where the Vextai commander was screaming orders at his crew. His ship's systems were failing one by one, but his pride was preventing him from accepting defeat. Instead, he was preparing to carry out his threat to execute the human prisoners. "If I cannot have victory," Admiral Zekthar announced over the communication channel, "then I will at least have revenge. Begin executing the prisoners immediately." Dr. Nam's eyes opened, and for the first time since this crisis began, His calm expression showed genuine anger. That was his final mistake. The quantum interface responded to his emotions, pulsing with energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. Warning alarms began sounding throughout the hidden laboratory as power levels exceeded all safety limits. "Doctor." "Nam," Captain Choi said nervously. "What are you doing?" "I'm teaching the galaxy that there are consequences for harming innocent people," Dr. Nam replied. His voice was still calm, but there was something in it that made everyone in the room step backward. The displays around the room changed to show technical readouts that hurt to look at. Dimensional barriers, quantum field manipulations, and energy calculations that operated on scales beyond human understanding. "Quantum dissolution array charging," Bomi announced. "Warning, current power levels may cause dimensional instability." "Acceptable risk," Dr. Nam said simply. Nari stared at the readouts in terror. "Dr. Nam, those power levels could tear a hole in space-time itself. Only locally," Dr. Nam assured her, "and only temporarily." Through the quantum interface, he sent a final message to Admiral Zekthar. "You had 30 minutes to release the prisoners. You have chosen to execute them instead. Your ship and crew are now forfeit." "You cannot threaten us," Admiral Zekthar replied. "We are too far away for your weapons to reach us." Dr. Nam smiled coldly. "Admiral, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. Distance is irrelevant when you can manipulate quantum space directly. The quantum dissolution array reached full power. On the displays, Ji-Won could see energy readings that made no sense, according to conventional physics. Dr. Nam was accessing power sources that existed in dimensions parallel to normal space. "Targeting complete," Dr. Nam announced. "Initiating quantum dissolution of hostile vessel." What happened next violated every law of physics that Ji-Won knew. Admiral Zekthar's flagship, which was orbiting the planet thousands of kilometers away, simply began to fade out of existence. It didn't explode or break apart. It just became less and less real, as if someone was slowly erasing it from reality. The effect started at the edges of the ship and worked inward. The outer hull became transparent, then disappeared entirely. The ship's structure followed, fading away like a ghost. The crew inside had just enough time to realize what was happening before they too were dissolved into quantum foam. "Target eliminated," Bomi reported. "Quantum dissolution complete. No debris, no radiation, no environmental impact." The remaining 4 Vextai ships immediately began retreating at maximum speed. Their crews had just watched one of their most powerful warships simply cease to exist, and they wanted no part of whatever weapon had done it. But Dr. Nam wasn't finished. The quantum interface expanded its displays to show Vextai military installations throughout their empire. Command centers, weapons factories, slave processing facilities, and the palace of the Vextai Emperor himself. "Network coordination complete," Dr. Nam announced. "Beginning systematic elimination of Vextai military infrastructure." Across the galaxy, Vextai military bases began experiencing the same fate as Admiral Zekthar's flagship. One by one, they simply faded out of existence. Weapons that had been used to conquer and enslave entire civilizations were quietly erased from reality. But Dr. Nam's targeting was precise. Only military installations and weapons were affected. Civilian areas, hospitals, schools, and residential districts were completely untouched. Even Vextai civilians working in military facilities were somehow protected, appearing safely on nearby planets as their workplaces dissolved around them. "How are you doing this?" Minho asked in amazement. "Quantum field manipulation on a galactic scale?" Dr. Nam explained while he worked. I'm not destroying these installations. I'm relocating their atoms to empty space between dimensions where they can't harm anyone. The efficiency was terrifying. In the space of 30 minutes, the Vextai Empire's military capacity was reduced by over 90%. 2,000 warships, thousands of military bases, and millions of weapons simply vanished from existence. Estimated remaining Vextai military capability, less than 5%, Bomi reported. Empire-wide surrender likely within 6 hours. But the most dramatic moment came when Dr. Nam targeted the palace of the Vextai Emperor. The massive structure that had been the symbol of Vextai power for over 1,000 years began to fade away, starting with the throne room itself. The Emperor's voice came over the galactic communication networks, broadcasting from his dissolving palace. Whoever is doing this, I surrender. The Vextai Empire surrenders unconditionally. Dr. Nam paused the dissolution process, leaving the Emperor's palace half-faded as a dramatic reminder of what could happen to those who chose violence over peace. Your surrender is accepted, Dr. Nam replied calmly. Effective immediately, all Vextai military forces will stand down. All slave populations will be freed. All conquered territories will be granted independence. Any violation of these terms will result in the complete dissolution of your remaining military assets. The Emperor's response was immediate. Agreed. All agreed. Please stop this destruction. Dr. Nam deactivated the quantum dissolution array, and the terrible energy readings began to return to normal levels. Around the galaxy, the systematic elimination of Vextai military power stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Phase 1 complete, Dr. Nam announced. The Vextai Empire is no longer a threat to galactic peace. Ji-Wan stared at the displays showing the liberated slave worlds. Millions of beings who had been enslaved for generations were now free, thanks to the coordinated efforts of the network and the elimination of their oppressors' military power. The prisoners on the planet below? She asked. Already rescued, Dr. Nam replied. The network coordinated their liberation while we were dealing with Admiral Zekthar. They're being transported to safe locations for medical treatment. Captain Choi looked around the quantum laboratory with a mixture of awe and fear. Dr. Nam, what you've accomplished here is incredible, but I have to ask, what's to stop other empires from seeing this demonstration and deciding that humanity is too dangerous to allow to exist? Dr. Nam smiled, and this time the expression was genuinely warm rather than cold. That's an excellent question, Captain. And the answer is that they're going to discover humanity's true nature isn't about destruction at all. The displays changed to show new information. Medical ships were being dispatched from human space to provide aid to the liberated worlds. Relief supplies were being organized for the billions of beings who would need help rebuilding their lives. Diplomatic missions were being prepared to help establish new governments on the freed planets. The galaxy has seen what happens when someone attacks our medical personnel, Dr. Nam explained. Now they're going to see what happens when we're allowed to help people without interference. Minho was beginning to understand. You're not just ending the Vextai Empire. You're replacing it with something better. We're replacing it with freedom. Dr. Nam C. 3 days after the dissolution of Admiral Zekthar's flagship, the galaxy was a very different place. The quantum laboratory aboard the Compassion had become the unofficial center of galactic diplomacy, as representatives from dozens of civilizations requested urgent meetings with the mysterious Dr. Nam Ji-Won walked through the corridors of the ship, which had returned to its normal medical operations. Patients from the liberated Vextai worlds were being treated alongside refugees from other conflicts. The medical staff was working harder than ever, but there was a new sense of security. Everyone knew that no one would dare attack a hospital. "Ship again! Dr. Kim!" Minho called out as she passed the main medical bay. "We just received another request for Dr. Nam. This one is from the Keth Dominion." Ji-Won sighed. The Keth Dominion controlled over 100 star systems and had one of the largest militaries in the galaxy. If they were requesting meetings, it meant the effects of Dr. Nam's demonstration were still spreading. "How many does that make today?" she asked. 17, Minho replied. The Spiral Confederacy, the Hive Collective, the Independent Worlds Alliance, and 14 smaller governments. They all want to discuss what they're calling the human intervention. Ji-Won made her way to the quantum laboratory where she found Dr. Nam calmly reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The displays around the room showed the ongoing liberation efforts on former Vextai worlds. Millions of freed slaves were being relocated, medical aid was being distributed, and new democratic governments were being established. "The response has been remarkable," Dr. Nam said without looking up from his work. 17 major civilizations have announced immediate policy changes regarding attacks on civilian targets. 6 empires have begun releasing their own slave populations voluntarily. The galactic economy is actually improving as forced labor is replaced with fair wages. Captain Choi entered the laboratory, carrying a tablet filled with diplomatic requests. "Dr. Nam, I need to ask you something important. These meetings everyone is requesting. What exactly are you planning to tell them?" Dr. Nam turned away from the displays and gave Captain Choi his full attention. "I'm going to tell them the truth, Captain, that the era of expansion through conquest is over. That humanity has the capability to enforce galactic peace, and the will to use that capability when necessary." "And if they don't like that answer?" Captain Choi asked. "Then they'll discover what happened to the Vextai Empire," Dr. Nam replied. Simply. Nari appeared in the doorway, her face showing a mixture of excitement and concern. "Dr. Nam, you need to see this. We're receiving communication requests from civilizations we didn't even know existed." She activated a new display that showed star maps extending far beyond the normal boundaries of known space. Dozens of previously unknown civilizations were attempting to make contact with humanity, apparently having detected the quantum dissolution events from impossible distances. "It seems word of our capabilities has spread beyond the local galactic region," Dr. Nam observed with interest. "Fascinating. I hadn't expected the quantum effects to be detectable across such vast distances." "Dr. Nam," Ji-Won said carefully, "I need to ask you something that's been bothering me. What you did to the Vextai Empire was necessary to stop their atrocities, but now you have the power to control the entire galaxy. What's to stop you from becoming the very thing you fought against?" Dr. Nam considered her question seriously before answering. "That's perhaps the most important question anyone has asked me, Dr. Kim. The answer is that absolute power corrupts absolutely, unless it's guided by absolute principles." He gestured to the displays showing the ongoing relief efforts. "My quantum interface doesn't just calculate military strategies. It calculates the long-term consequences of every action across multiple probability frameworks. If I were to abuse this power, the quantum computers show me exactly how that would end, not just for me, but for all of humanity." "And how would it end?" Minho asked. "Badly," Dr. Nam replied with a slight smile. "The calculations are quite clear. Any attempt to Rule through fear or oppression, even with the best intentions, leads to eventual rebellion and chaos. True peace can only be maintained through cooperation and mutual benefit. The communication system activated with an incoming priority message. The screen showed a figure that made everyone in the room step backward in surprise. It was the Archon of the Spiral Confederacy, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, known for never personally communicating with other civilizations. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam, the Archon, spoke in a voice that seemed to resonate with harmonic frequencies. I request immediate audience regarding the future of galactic civilization. Dr. Nam bowed politely to the screen. Your Honor, I would be pleased to discuss any concerns you may have. The Archon's form was difficult to look at directly, constantly shifting between dimensions. Dr. Nam, your recent actions have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our understanding of physical law. The Spiral Confederacy wishes to know your intentions regarding galactic governance. My intentions are quite simple, Your Honor, Dr. Nam replied. I intend to ensure that medical personnel and civilian populations are never again targeted by military forces. Beyond that, each civilization is free to govern itself as it sees fit. And if civilizations choose to govern themselves poorly, if they oppress their own people or engage in aggressive expansion, Dr. Nam's expression became serious. Then they will discover that the quantum network extends into their territory as well. Oppression of any sentient beings is unacceptable, regardless of whether those beings are citizens of the oppressing government. The implications of his words hit everyone in the room simultaneously. Dr. Nam wasn't just protecting humans and their allies. He was establishing himself as the guardian of all sentient life in the galaxy. You're talking about enforcing your moral code on everyone, Captain Choi said quietly. I'm talking about enforcing basic standards of civilized behavior, Dr. Nam corrected. No slavery, no genocide, no attacks on medical or civilian targets, no conquest of peaceful worlds. These aren't specifically human values, Captain. These are universal principles that every civilized species recognizes. The Archon spoke again. And if we refuse to accept your authority in these matters? Dr. Nam's answer was calm but final. Then you will join the Vextai Empire in irrelevance, Your Honor. The communication channel fell silent for several moments before the Archon responded. The Spiral Confederacy accepts these terms. We propose a formal galactic treaty establishing these principles in law. An excellent suggestion, Dr. Nam agreed. I'll have draft terms prepared for review by all interested parties. As the communication ended, Jiwon realized what she had just witnessed. Dr. Nam had essentially declared himself the supreme authority over galactic civilization, and one of the most powerful governments in known space had just accepted that. Authority without argument. Dr. Nam, she said slowly, you're not just changing the balance of power. You're replacing the entire system of galactic governance. I'm establishing a framework for permanent peace, Dr. Nam corrected. The old system was based on the assumption that conflict was inevitable and that the strong had the right to dominate the weak. The new system is based on cooperation and mutual protection. Minho looked around the quantum laboratory with its displays showing the ongoing transformation of galactic civilization. And if someone challenges this new system, Dr. Nam smiled, and the quantum interface pulsed with energy as if responding to his thoughts. Then they'll discover that challenging the new system is remarkably similar to challenging the laws of physics themselves. The communication system activated again, this time showing multiple screens as governments from across the galaxy joined a massive conference call. Hundreds of civilizations were requesting to participate in establishing the new galactic order. It's Working, Nari whispered, watching the displays. They're all accepting the new paradigm voluntarily. Because the alternative is the fate of the Vextai Empire, Dr. Nam explained. And because the new paradigm actually benefits everyone except those who profit from war and oppression. As the conference began, with representatives from across the galaxy discussing terms for a new era of peace, Jiwon watched Dr. Nam coordinate responses to hundreds of questions simultaneously through his quantum interface. He had become something more than human, she realized. He was now the guardian of galactic peace, with the power to enforce his will across unlimited distances and the intelligence to use that power wisely. Whether that was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of empires was over. The age of enforced peace had begun. And it all started because someone made the fatal mistake of attacking a hospital ship. 1 year after the dissolution of Admiral Zekthar's flagship, the galaxy had settled into what historians would later call the Great Peace. The Compassion continued its medical missions, but now it traveled through space that was fundamentally different from the chaotic, war-torn galaxy of the past. Dr. Ji-won Kim stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Medical Council headquarters, a massive space station orbiting Earth. Through the transparent walls, she could see dozens of hospital ships from every known civilization arriving and departing on humanitarian missions. No longer did medical vessels travel alone and vulnerable. They moved in coordinated fleets, protected by Dr. Nam's quantum network, and respected by every government in the galaxy. It's hard to believe how much has changed, Minho said, joining her at the observation window. He now served as the Director of Interspecies Medical Cooperation, coordinating relief efforts across hundreds of worlds. Sometimes I wonder if we did the right thing, Ji-won replied quietly. The galaxy is peaceful now, but at what cost? Before Minho could answer, Nari entered the observation deck. She had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer for the new Galactic Peace Enforcement Division, tasked with maintaining the quantum systems that kept aggressive civilizations in check. Dr. Kim, Nari said, Dr. Nam is requesting your presence in the Quantum Command Center. He says it's important. Jiwon nodded and followed Nari through the corridors of the space station. The halls were filled with beings from dozens of species, all working together to maintain the new galactic order. Doctors, engineers, diplomats, and administrators from across known space collaborated on projects that would have been impossible during the era of constant warfare. The Quantum Command Center was a vast chamber at the heart of the station, filled with displays showing the status of every inhabited world in the galaxy. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam stood at the center of it all, his consciousness partially merged with quantum computers that monitored the thoughts and actions of billions of sentient beings. Dr. Kim, he said without turning around, thank you for coming. I wanted to share some interesting data with you. The displays around the room changed to show statistical information about galactic civilization, population growth, economic development, technological advancement, and social progress indicators scrolled past in streams of positive data. Galactic infant mortality has decreased by 67%, Dr. Nam reported. Average lifespan across all species has increased by 23%. Violent crime is down 89%. Economic productivity is up 45% across all inhabited systems. The numbers are impressive, Ji-won admitted. But what about freedom? What about the right of civilizations to determine their own destiny? Dr. Nam finally turned to face her, and she was struck by how much he had changed over the past year. His eyes held an intelligence that seemed almost infinite, but there was also a sadness there that hadn't been present before. "That's exactly why I wanted to speak with you," he said. "The quantum interface allows me to monitor not just actions, but intentions and emotions. I can see the psychological state of every major leader in the galaxy." "And what do you see?" Jiwan asked. "Gratitude," Dr. Nam replied. "Relief. Hope. The vast majority of galactic citizens are happier and more prosperous than they have ever been. Wars that have raged for millennia have ended. Diseases that have plagued entire species for generations have been cured. Poverty and oppression have become relics of the past." Minho stepped forward. "But there's something else, isn't there? Something you're not saying." Dr. Nam nodded slowly. "There is resistance. Small groups of individuals who believe that freedom includes the right to make choices that harm others. Former military leaders who miss the glory of conquest. Politicians who preferred the chaos of the old system because it gave them more opportunities for personal power. The displays changed to show specific locations where underground resistance movements were operating. Most were pathetically small and poorly organized, but Dr. Nam monitored them all with the same attention he gave to major governments. "Are they a threat?" Nari asked. "Not to galactic stability," Dr. Nam replied. "The quantum network makes large-scale rebellion impossible. Any attempt to organize violence or oppression is detected and neutralized before it can cause harm." "Neutralized how?" Jiwan asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "The same way Admiral Zekthar was neutralized," Dr. Nam said simply. "Individuals who choose to harm others are relocated to places where they can't harm anyone." The cold efficiency of it made Jiwan shudder. "You're talking about execution without trial." "I'm talking about protecting innocent people from those who would harm them," Dr. Nam corrected. "The quantum interface calculates probability matrices with perfect accuracy. When someone decides to commit an act of violence or oppression, I know about it before they take action. Removing them from the equation prevents suffering for countless others." Captain Choi entered the command center, his uniform now bearing the insignia of the Galactic Peacekeeping Fleet. The former hospital ship captain now commanded a force of thousands of vessels dedicated to protecting civilian populations across the galaxy. "Dr. Nam," he said formally, "the Andromedans are requesting permission to establish trade relations with the Milky Way. They've detected our quantum signatures and want to propose a mutual non-aggression pact." "Interesting," Dr. Nam mused. "Another galaxy seeking to avoid the fate of those who chose violence. Approve the request, but make it clear that our standards of behavior apply to intergalactic relations as well." As Captain Choi left to carry out his orders, Jiwon realized the true scope of what Dr. Nam had accomplished. He wasn't just governing one galaxy. His influence was expanding across the entire universe, one star system at a time. "Dr. Nam," she said carefully, "do you ever wonder if you've become the very thing you set out to stop? A dictator with absolute power over countless lives?" Dr. Nam was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Every day, Dr. Kim, the quantum interface shows me exactly what I've become and what I'm becoming. I see the fear that some beings feel when they know their thoughts and actions are being monitored. I see the resentment of those who believe they should be free to make choices that harm others. And yet you continue," Jiwan observed. "Because I also see the alternative," Dr. Nam replied. "The quantum computers have calculated what would happen if I removed the network and returned to the old system. Within 6 months, 3 major wars would begin. Within a year, over 2 billion sentient beings would die from violence, disease, and starvation. Within 5 years, galactic civilization would collapse into permanent chaos. He gestured to a display showing a playground on a distant world where human and alien children played together without fear. Dr. Kim, those children will grow up in a galaxy where war is impossible, where disease is preventable, where no one suffers from hunger or oppression. Is their freedom to live in peace worth less than someone else's freedom to take that peace away? Jiwan looked around the command center at the beings working to maintain galactic peace. They came from hundreds of different worlds and species, but they all shared the same goal: protecting the innocent and helping those in need. "Sometimes I think you're the greatest hero in galactic history," she said quietly. "Sometimes I think you're the most dangerous tyrant who ever lived." Dr. Nam smiled sadly. "Sometimes I think you're both right." The quantum interface chimed with an incoming message from a previously unknown civilization at the edge of galactic space. They had detected humanity's presence and were requesting contact, along with detailed information about human behavioral expectations. "Word continues to spread," Dr. Nam observed. "Every month, new civilizations make contact, eager to join the galactic community under our protection. They've seen what happens to aggressive empires, and they've chosen cooperation over conquest." "And if we're wrong?" Minho asked. "If there's a better way to maintain peace without the level of control you've established?" Dr. Nam turned to the quantum interface and merged his consciousness with the vast network of computers. For several minutes, he processed calculations that spanned centuries into the future, evaluating every possible alternative to the current system. "The quantum analysis is complete," he announced finally. "There are 14,147 different paths that galactic civilization could take from this point. Of those, only one maintains long-term peace and prosperity for all sentient beings." "The path we're on now?" Jiwan asked. "The path we're on now," Dr. Nam confirmed. As the day ended and the command center shifted to night operations, Jiwan found herself alone with Dr. Nam. The man who had single-handedly reshaped galactic civilization stood quietly among his quantum computers, monitoring the dreams and hopes of trillions of beings across the universe. "Do you ever regret what you've become?" she asked. Dr. Nam considered the question seriously. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that sentient beings were incapable of choosing peace voluntarily. I regret that the only way to stop suffering was to eliminate the freedom to cause suffering." He paused and looked at her with eyes that held the weight of infinite responsibility. "But I do not regret the outcome. Children sleep safely tonight on 10,000 worlds because no one is allowed to harm them. Medical personnel,